Hi Moonbeams, it's Nikki T here at Moonchild Tarot with a tag for you today. I thought I'd record this as a little bonus video. There are so many good tags around that I wanted to get some of them done, and rather than just do it on my Tuesday video, I thought about doing a bonus video. So this is a tag created by Simon at the Hermit's Cave. I'm sure you all know him. And this is the 10 tarot decks never leaving my collection. So when Simon did his video, again, he said it's not necessarily his top 10, not necessarily, you know, his most beautiful decks. And I think I agree with that as well. I've tried to pick, some of them are in maybe my most beautiful decks because, again, I have a smaller collection, but I've tried to pick ones where they're not automatically my favourites, like Tarot of the Abyss. I could put that in every single favourite list, but I'm not going to. So I've tried to be a bit different with this. And yeah, these are 10 decks never leaving my collection. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first deck is the most sentimental of them all. This is the first tarot deck that I ever bought. This is 20 years old. I know that because I was reading tarot for when I met my hubby. And this is called the Royal Tarot. For ages, I didn't know what the tarot deck was because I just bought it, and I bought it with a book, and this was the deck I had for quite a few years. And I didn't know that there was different tarot decks, different collections, things like that. I put this through Google Lens and it's alerted me that it's called the Royal Tarot. Now, I will always keep this deck, and I've lovingly named it Bob. But I won't usually read with this. One of the main reasons was I struggled with this because when I first got it, it was a pip deck. I would always say, if you're starting out new with reading tarot, make it slightly easier on yourself, build up on them layers, get an RWS or an RWS clone or something like that. I know some people would say, you know, reading with pips is, you know, the harder way, and if you can do that, you can learn with everything. But the teacher in me is saying, start small and build yourself up. So so this is the Royal Tarot. I do love it. It's got this like cartoony style to it, like the lion there, he doesn't look very happy. But obviously when I first started reading, I was stapled to the guidebook because of the fact that the cards weren't scenic in the pips. I now understand numerology, I understand the suits, I know the cards well enough now to be able to kind of read the pips and things like that. So I have read with this recently, but he's always going to be in my collection. He is a much loved member of the family, is our Bob. As you can see, he is bowed very badly because I had him wrapped up in a piece of red ribbon because I didn't have a silk bag. So I got a ribbon, I got like a satin ribbon, and I tied it up. I tied my deck up with that, and that's how I would store it. It is for, that big myth is that you have to have your decks wrapped in a silk bag or a silk scarf or whatever. You can keep your decks in a Tupperware tub for all you care, as long as you're keeping it in good standing. So this has lasted the test of time, because this was bought at, I'm sure I bought it somewhere like The Works, or somewhere like that. The Works, if you're not in the UK, The Works is kind of it's a strange shop, because it sells crafty stuff and art stuff, but it also sells a lot of books and toys, and it's kind of it's kind of an odd, you never get the same thing in, with books and stuff. If a book goes in and sells out, it's gone then, you know what I mean? It's a very bizarre shop, but I love going in there and having a nosy at the art supplies and the notebooks and things like that. My kids love going in there and trying to get me to buy them, random little plasticky toys that are, gonna break or be found at the bottom of, the bottom of their bed, like hiding or something like that. So yeah, so this is Bob, and this is the Royal Tarot. Like, look at that fool. Like, love that. If you're anybody doesn't like clowns. But yeah, so this is the Royal Tarot. This is Bob. He's never leaving my collection. He's got pride of place. He's got his very own shelf, where he kind of sits and he spends the rest of his days just relaxing, and maybe, when I fancy it, doing an odd riffle shuffle with, because the cards are quite good for riffle shuffling. And as you can see, it has, been through its time for 20 years. Now, the second one on this list is a deck that combines one of my favourite, I'm going to try and cover it before I reel. This combines tarot with one of my other special interests that I have had for, my obsession ramped up 15 years ago with this thing, but ever since I was a kid and I'd watch Saturday morning TV, I always had this love for this set of characters and this universe and everything. So it's the Marvel Tarot, and I've bought this purely as a keepsake, because it's tarot, it's Marvel. I love tarot, I love Marvel, and yeah, so that's the only reason. I've bought it to kind of keep it as a collector's item. It does read well. I have read with it. Some of the characters I'm kind of a bit like, you know what I mean? And some of the things, it is a little bit pippish in that you have to really know your stuff. Like, I'm a huge Marvel fan of the Marvel cinematic universe. I'm not as big into the comics. I've read the comics. I've read quite a few of the comics, but I'm not a huge into the comics type person. But even some of these, I don't know what they are. So it's not a kind of easy, it's a bit like a pip deck. It's not an easy reader. But it's Marvel, it's tarot, I love it. And yeah, there's just a few characters where I go, oh, really? Like, why? Yeah. And it is, it's a pop culture deck. So the person that has created this deck or done this possibly wouldn't be, the ultimate nerd and things like that. But maybe they are, because I don't know who some of these characters are, because I haven't read, I'm not a Marvel fan where I've read loads and loads of the comics. I've read some of the comics, but I'm more in the Marvel cinematic universe, watching the films, the TV shows, everything like that. I've watched them all, but yeah. Anyway, I'm digressing. I like this for the Hanged Man, Bucky. He's eternally in a state of, is he good, is he evil? I like that they've put Bucky as the Hanged Man. The Hermit, the Silver Surfer. It does, some of it makes sense, and then some of it I just think, whoa, you know what I mean? Like Ten of Cups, I know it's a cute a dolphin and stuff, but yeah, and I love this. Phoenix is one of my favourite. Jean Grey, the Phoenix, one of my favourite characters. It's not my favourite character, but I love the Phoenix. And I love Deadpool as the Fool. A very, very good choice for that character, and MJ for the Lovers. Some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't make sense, but it's never leaving my collection. When I want to kind of have my little Marvel fix, I can bring this out, and I will keep hold of it. Maybe long, other decks might come and go. This will always remain in my collection, not necessarily as a reader deck, but as a deck that I have because I just love Marvel. Love that, the Moon Knight. It's a little bit of a hit and miss. Yggdrasil makes sense. But you have to be, I think you'd have to be a real Marvel geek to be able to read with this kind of fully, or sit there and learn it with the guidebook, which it's a bit cardboardy, so it's a bit of a struggle to shuffle as well. So let's move on. Now, the next deck is another deck that I have in my collection as a kind of collector's piece, and I'm not necessarily going to kind of read with it. It's not a workhorse deck, and this is the Shakespearean Tarot. This is, I'm just trying to look for the box, because I know that Nix at Key Features really was excited to look at this book. So here's the book here. A look at this deck. So it's by Dolores Ashcroft Novicki, illustrated by Paul Hardy. This was published, just trying to find, this was published, I'm trying to find, 1993. So this is like a 90s deck. I grew up in the 90s. I spent my teen years in the 90s. I discovered theatre in the 90s. And yeah, I think that's why. And I did a lot of Shakespeare when I was young and in youth theatre. I'm going to hold this up a bit more so you can see. So it's great because it's got a quote underneath and it references the play. 9 of Swords, Macbeth, the out-damned spot, Lady Macbeth getting driven with her guilt and anxiety and kind of madness and everything. And that's a really good one to look at. Some of the Shakespeare plays I don't know a lot of, like Troilus and is it Cressida? Troilus and Cressida I don't know, but I know a lot of the comedies and the the big ones, like your Romeo and Juliet and your Shakespeares and your not your Shakespeares, your Romeo and Juliet, your Hamlets, your Macbeth. I had to do Hamlet at A level and I absolutely hated it. Hamlet is one Shakespeare play where I'm like, no, I really just, it's I'm more of a lover of the comedies. I don't mind Macbeth because of I think because of witchy connection and everything like that. And I don't mind some of the other ones. It's just, there's something about Hamlet that I just can't get on with. And I studied it at A level, and I did Much Ado About Nothing as well, which I actually did, was in, and I was in Midsummer Night's Dream as well. So I know Midsummer Night's Dream like the back of my hand. I can still quote my lines that I had because I played Helena. So I've got so much fondness for Shakespeare and his plays, and he is just, you know, he's a great influence on everything, you know what I mean? Like even modern films like 10 Things I Hate About You is based on Taming of the Shrew, and things like that. I mean, he wasn't, I don't think he's the most original person, because I think he borrowed a lot of stuff from other people, but he was a master at his craft. And yeah, I've got this just as that homage of, in the 90s, I did so much Shakespeare. I watched so many Shakespeare plays, read quite a lot, and I loved it. And I do love getting to watch a Shakespeare play. They are a little bit on the long side. My concentration doesn't, but I love this from The Tempest. I taught The Tempest when I was, because I used to teach drama, I taught English as well. So I taught The Tempest as a play. And yeah, we used to do a chat show version of The Tempest, and like modernize it with, you know, the whole them arguing with each other and then bringing the guests on, you know what I mean, a la Jerry Springer. So I used to Jerry Springer Shakespeare. Some of you are probably going, oh no, you can't do that, but that was the way of getting the kids in, you know, engaged in it and everything. They loved having, I remember doing a Jerry Springer version of Midsummer Night's Dream, and Titania and Oberon having an absolute row in the middle of it and everything like that. It was so good. It was so funny. And yeah, Shakespeare doesn't have to be all like dry and antiquified, you know. His stories are timeless and his characters are timeless, and they reflect humanity. And I think giving that modern day treatment just shows that his plays dealt with humanity, and you know, a bit like tarot is, you know, all of life's mysteries into one. I think Shakespeare had the ability to kind of put all of that into his plays. Oh, Richard III there, I like that. Yeah, I remember watching Richard III, and it was a very long play. But I enjoyed it. Yeah, so this is I'm showing it a little bit more because I know Nick's wanted to see the deck, and I think you could probably get this on eBay quite reasonable. It was very, very cheap when I got it, so I don't know whether I was very lucky or you know, whether it's available, but yeah, it is fabulous. So this is the Shakespeare Tarot, so that is deck number 3. This is the slippiest deck I have ever encountered. It is so slippy, it's fallen down a few times, and I don't know whether, when, you know, the person has sold it, I don't know whether, because this side looks a different colour to this side, so I don't know whether it's been a bit like sun bleached. You know, that gives it character, that gives it you know, I'm not bothered about it being in mint condition. I just like having it in my collection. So the next one again harks back even further into the realm of the 1980s, because it is the Labyrinth Tarot. And Labyrinth is my favourite childhood film. I'm obsessed with it. I watch it at least once a year. I went to the cinema at the 40th anniversary and dragged my daughter to watch it. And, you know, the amount of glitter that was on that, you know, on that set and everything, it's really, really astonishes me. And I saw things that I'd never actually seen before in watching the version, you know, watching the film, and realize things. And it's such an amazing film. So this is a deck that I've used quite a lot. I really, these scare me a little bit. That's the ones with the heads that come off. That was the one thing that I couldn't, I have to look away. This is a pip deck. It is a pop culture deck where it's, you know, they've, now pop culture decks, they're realizing that people want the scenic pips, and they're, you know, this is an older pop culture deck, but I love, you know, there's little details in it, you know, there's little details in it that do make, you know, do hit the intuition buttons. Wow, I love that. It's just, this is my, I think, my kind of inner child deck. I bought a deck that I had the purpose of, that's going to be my inner child deck, but I've come to realize that this kind of fits it a lot better, that energy, and I can really kind of connect. When I, even with the pips, it will bring memories from the film that spark that intuition, because I know the film so well and I could quote it, you know, quite easily. It gives me images from the film that will then go into the reading. Yeah, and I love that moon. I love that moon card with the peach. And yeah, it's just, I love the style of artwork, like the wood grainy kind of feel to it. We've got our magician, who's obviously Jareth. This deck is called Jareth as well, and he has his own little sparkly bag. I don't know whether you probably can't see that, but it's sparkly silver wool, because that was the nearest I could kind of think of that I had to an owl. So when he's in his owl form, and like at the end when he's dressed in his kind of owl costume, I just, yeah, I do love this deck. This has been a stalwart. This is one where I can reach for it. If I want a pip deck and I want a comfy pip deck, I will just reach for this. I do love it. And yeah, it's never ever leaving my collection. I was so hesitant to buy this, knowing it was a pip deck, when I rediscovered tarot. But I'm so glad that I did. It's really helped challenge me to get out of, you know, reading the scenic and using the numerology, using the elements, and using kind of, it helped with my memory just to read. So it's really pushed me out of my comfort zone. I think that's my favourite lovers card ever. Because it's from Labyrinth. Yeah, I am such a fangirl for Labyrinth, and I did have I still do have a massive crush on David Bowie in that film. You know what I mean? He was just phenomenal. And yeah, I know it was very much a film of its time. It had never probably, in the way it was, it would never get made today. It traumatized people, but yeah, that was what the 80s were, with lots of traumatizing films like The Never Ending Story and Labyrinth and things like that, Watership Down, you know, these types of things that really made us resilient, because they traumatized the heck out of us as a kid, and they were dark and fantastical. And yeah, I love it. So this is the Labyrinth Tarot, and that is number 4. Number 5 is the Llewellyn Tarot. I do love this deck so much. I know that it's being re-released as kind of an anniversary. I know Llewellyn are re-releasing it. Judging on Llewellyn's cardstock and how bad it is, I'm not sure I would buy it as a backup. I'm so happy I got this second hand, and they'd already edged it, so it's already lovely. And I just love connecting with this. It's a very earthy, it's got a groundedness about it, it's got that whimsy, it's got that ethereal nature with it, and I feel like it's connecting in a little bit with like ancestors and things like that. I've got a lot of I know I've got Welsh heritage in my family tree. I've got a lot of Irish, I've got a lot of Scottish as well, and it just gives such beautifully comforting readings. It's gently leads you through the kind of the struggle and things like that. I love it. And as I think it was Nix that pointed out, the weather in this, the way that they do weather in this is such an amazing thing. Like, you can feel it. I feel cold looking at that picture, because it's, you know, it's that cold, it's a dark, it's crisp, it's, you know, it gives you that sense. I can feel the waves and hear the waves crashing when I look at this image. It's so evocative, and I love it. And it just really does take me into the card and into the scene. It's got like pathworky vibes with it, like going in and stuff like that. And again, I'm hearing the rush of the waves and stuff. Having gone to university in Wales, I loved, you know, one of my favourite things in the world was to stand by the sea in the middle of the night when it was stormy. I don't know whether I've already gone past the tower card, but you know, when I see the tower card, I always remember them times where I would get great solace from just listening to the crash of the waves when it was absolutely freezing and you know, dark, and everybody else had kind of gone to bed and were at their peace. I found peace in oh, it's not going to be here, is it? I found peace in just, it gave me a great sense of comfort that there it is. Like, the waves were always there, no matter what happened in our lives, no matter what was going on. The sea would still be there. It would still be going in and out. It would still have, you know, 2 tides a day and everything, the weather and stuff like that. I've got a really pull to the weather, and kind of, especially when it's stormy. I love a good storm. I would love to stand in the storm and just take it in and stuff like that. Yeah, so when I see this card, it reminds me of fond memories of living in Aberystwyth and just standing by the sea in the middle of the night when it was cold and dark and stormy, and just feeling comfort in that, kind of, that nature was there and kind of still. I probably sound a little bit crazy that I used to, but it gave me comfort as a 21-year-old that had just started teaching, going into my teaching career. So that is the Llewellyn Tarot. So the next deck on the list is a favourite artist of mine, and I I'm never getting rid of this deck, even though it's slightly large. It is the Raven's Dream by MJ Cullinane. And I love this. It did take me, you know, a bit of a struggle to get it. Being here in the UK and everything like that, when it was re-released. I mean, I really have a dislike to wasps. I hate them, you know, I've got a phobia of them, whatever. And I look at this card and it does give me that reaction, but not in a bad way. I can completely understand why this has been chosen. It's so ingenious. This is as close to a nature deck as I kind of get, like animal decks, because I know Jack said it on one of his videos, like Nikki loves crows. Crows are my thing. I, you know, see them a lot on my walks up the hills in Lancashire. I'm very, very privileged to live near like some farmland and hills and stuff where I can go and I see a lot of crows and a lot of blackbirds and jackdaws and all the beautiful birds that are there. So I love this. This is my go-to kind of witchy deck when I want a witchy kind of, where I am on my witchy path reading type thing. I wouldn't count myself as a witch, but when I'm kind of looking for that kind of witchy vibe, I will go for that. It is like the cardstock is, you know, it's not your thick cardboardy cardstock. It does really shuffle well. Obviously they are slightly bigger, but I don't mind it. It shuffles really, really good. And I just love this imagery. There's so much imagery within this that you can read from. I think it's really, like, I've got the Crow Tarot as well. So this, compared to the Crow Tarot, I think this is so much more elevated than the Crow Tarot. Still really, really good, but there's so many little, you know what I mean, like the tiger there and he's got his hand on it and the crow's like, right, I'm gonna try and sneak it. Like, there's so many different, and the butterflies, there's so many different layers to this deck, and it's never leaving my collection. One, because, you know, it is an indie deck and I struggled, you know, it was a logistical kind of, not nightmare, but it was a logistical challenge to get it. Second of all, another reason I love it, and it's, you know, crows and ravens, and it's all me, like my kind of naturey vibe wrapped into one. And the third thing, like, I love the, like, Ouroboros, I don't know whether I've pronounced it correctly, but yeah, I learned that from Loki, the series, what that is. But another reason why I wouldn't get this out of my collection, and this is a frivolous reason, is because I accidentally dinged one of the cards. So I don't even know which card it was, but I did your classic, drop the cards, roll your chair back to try and find it, and I rolled over one of the cards. So they're not really in pristine kind of order, but that's fine. It's got character, and it's just shouted a name at me, because I don't name all my decks. I've got some decks that are named and everything, but the name usually kind of comes to me after a certain amount of time that I've spent with it, and this is just shouted at me that he wants to be called Ronnie. So this is Ronnie, the Raven's Dream, and yes, now he's got a name. He's firmly in my collection. Yeah, I just love it. It's just such a beautiful deck. And yeah, I love that for the Seven of Wands, like, you know, that impossible, you can't see, and it's pulling down and everything like that. It's so layered, it's so nuanced, and yeah, I do love reading with this deck, and I should read with it more often. Maybe I shall put it in my decks to read for next month, maybe, because I've had so many new decks to try. The old ones end up getting neglected, and that's why I want to kind of limit my collection to roughly around 50 tarot, just because I've got 40 now, and some of them are ones that I won't use in readings and whatever. I would struggle to be able to use them all, basically. So I want to have a curated collection. So this is the Raven's Dream, yeah, and this is, yeah, I'm never getting rid of this deck. The next one is another deck that has a name. Can you remember what his name is? This is Dave, my Deviant Moon deck. And I thought I had to have a Patrick Valenza deck in there somewhere. I love Patrick Valenza's work for tarot. I just think it's really, really good. The oracles, I'm a bit hit and miss with, and I think that's because I struggle with oracle anyway. So I'm a bit I wouldn't get as much use out of a Patrick Valenza oracle deck as I would do a tarot deck. I just love this. It's the original. It's, you know, fantastic. I probably will get the Deviant Moon oracle hopefully when that comes out, because it's this artwork and it's this style I really love. And I think this is just a fantastic deck. It's never going out of my collection. I will always have Deviant Dave here because he likes to, you know, he doesn't just poke the wound when he's doing a reading. He gets his finger in and does a good, you know. This has got such an ability to read like deep layers that of subconscious where you're trying to fool yourself and things like that. You can't run away from Dave. You know, he's very, you know, he's very creepy in that he'll, you know, get down and get deep. Yeah, so it's just wonderful. I love Patrick Valenza's decks because, you know, that's my favourite Six of Cups, Punch and Judy. Like, everybody used to love Punch and Judy. Like, you'd watch Punch and Judy be like, yay, it's great and whatever. And we have, you know, fun things like Punch and Judy and stuff, and kids are like, yeah, it's great. But they used to like fling the baby around, and you know what I mean? Like, we were brought up on some very, very fun but dodgy stuff, if you know what I mean. And he used to like hit everyone with the stick and stuff like that. Yeah, Punch and Judy originated from like Italian Commedia dell'arte, and having looked at Commedia dell'arte, I love it. And again, they used to beat people with a stick and it would make a slapping sound, and that's where the term slapstick comes from the instrument that they would use. You know, the masters in Italian Commedia dell'arte, the masters would beat the servant usually with this stick and it would make a walloping sound. And obviously that went and moved into Punch and Judy, and obviously we got like slapstick now. Slapstick kind of comedy all comes from, I always say, like, Mr. Bean comes from Commedia dell'arte, because it's you know, it's basically your Zani servant. I'm going into geeky drama territory there, but yeah, but this reminds me of a Commedia dell'arte. This reminds me of that, you know, crazy zany kind of thing, and it has that edge, and it just makes me smile. I'm smiling as I'm looking through it. It does, because it's just humour in, it's finding humour in the things that make us feel uncomfortable, and that's very much kind of my type of humour. I was brought up on Monty Python. I wasn't brought up, I brought myself up on Monty Python, you know, the old sitcoms when we were a kid and stuff like that. My dad used to have on and everything, but I was very much of the a little bit of surrealist Monty Python, stuff like that. My old teaching mentor actually was in The Life of Brian. Yes, that's my claim to fame. I got taught by the Welsh Tart, if you know your Monty Python, and Life of Brian. But yeah, so I just love it. It just sings to my sense of humour. It's, you know, not all tarot has to be cutesy and, you know, beautiful and whatever and stuff like that. I just love a good, you know, creepy deck with a sense of humour. I know it's not for everyone's taste, but it's for mine. So yeah, this was Deviant Dave, the Deviant Moon Tarot. The next one, I'm going to kind of count this as, this might not be the deck. Like, I was thinking about this and it was like, maybe yes, this deck might never leave my collection. But I think this is a type of deck, and I will always have a Thoth deck in my collection, whether I kind of keep this one, whether I get a bigger one, whether I get a deck that is inspired by, because I'm looking at the Llewellyn Tarot as well, and I've seen the Morea Tarot, that looks really good. I will always have a Thoth in my collection, and I always keep saying I am starting to go down the rabbit hole of reading more about Thoth and going into it so that I can appreciate it, because it is so beautiful. It's such a beautiful deck, and it's just, you can feel it's got so many secrets and so much hidden to it. Now, yes, we all know Aleister Crowley is a problematic person. I don't agree with, you know, some of the stuff he's done and everything. And Nyx did an amazing video. I'll try and link it. She did an amazing video about the quandary of, you know, buying a Thoth deck, but, you know, is that supporting Aleister Crowley's, you know, and the way he was and everything like that. And I will link her video down below. But I just think for the depth and all that's hidden inside it, I will always have a Thoth in my collection, and I do want to get to reading this more. I am listening to Tarot Mysticism. I'll link the book up there. Edison Nicky will put it in. I'm listening to that in the hope that it's going to open up the Thoth for me more, because I do want to read with this a lot more. It's sometimes just, I think, the court cards that stop me more. But yeah, I think it does need study in order to fully have, because it's not an RWS, to fully have that, do it justice, if that makes sense. But I will always have a Thoth in my collection. This one only ever wants me to read for myself. It's a deck that's just said, I am just for you, I'm not for anybody else. I have done hybrid readings where I've mixed another deck in with it, and it's been a Thoth inspired deck. That's worked really well. But if I do a reading with this deck, it's going to be just for me. And it kind of goes with the deeper questions there. So yeah, so I will always have a Thoth in my collection. I do love this size, but being able to appreciate the artwork, I'd probably need a bigger size, or I'd be constantly like getting my handy magnifying glass out, and I don't particularly want to be doing that all the time. But yeah, I love this card, and it is a stunning deck. Stunning. So I'm a bit giddy today. So yeah, so I will always have a Thoth deck in my collection. Now, the next one, I thought, well, it wouldn't be a Nikki video without a kind of creepy, spooky deck. And you could say that I'm sorry, I'm straightening myself out. You could say that Dave was a creepy deck and everything, but I think that's a creepy deck with a sense of humour. You know, I love my Gothic themed decks. I love my vampires especially. Again, child of the 90s, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Interview with a Vampire. I was fortunate enough to go and see it at the cinema because my friend's mum snuck us in, booked it and snuck us in, and I was a teen. I must have been about 14, 15, and she, you know, it was a bit naughty, but yeah, I had to pick a deck that reflect that 90s kind of, you know, my love of 90s kind of Gothic things. And I picked the Gothic Tarot. I could have picked the Tarot of Vampires, which I've got. I could have picked what's the other one? The Horror Tarot, or Murder Crows, or there's lots and lots and lots of decks. Maybe not Murder Crows, but there's lots of decks that I probably won't get rid of, definitely. But above all, I think I'd keep this one. And this just tickles my inner teen pickle. It's just so, yeah, it's just so of its time. It's so of its era. It's, you know, it's not, everybody is, you know, very, very skinny and very pale and things like that. It's not inclusive at all. But it's of its time. I just love the artwork. The artwork is just, it just gives me, like, yeah. And some of the, you know, some of the pips are a bit pippish, but it's just fantastic. This, you know, that kind of, that image, like, that gives me kind of almost like Wuthering Heights like vibes and things like that. Like, recently I've just watched it. I know, not having watched Wuthering Heights, I think I had an aversion because it was my friend's favourite book at the time when she was a teenager. That you know, it gives me that kind of very Victorian kind of, yeah, that Gothic just bleakness there, and, you know, chucking a few vampires and Bob's your uncle. I love it, all the gargoyles and stuff. It is very, you know, of its time. I think this has been out for a while. And I love doing relationship readings with this because it just, as you say, it's very vampire-y coded, and with that is the seduction and the kind of the lust kind of element that vampires have. You know, you could say that Dracula, you know, was a love story to a certain extent, and things like that. Like, yeah, it's, you know, what he did with in the pursuit of his love and stuff. So, you know, the romanticism, I think, is attached to it, which makes these really good for readings for relationships. If people kind of are okay with a gothy type reading. I am, you know, into Gothic music and everything like that, so it just, yeah, it's just a very feeding my inner teenager that was told that she wasn't allowed to constantly be all dressed in black and, you know, dye her hair black. I wasn't allowed to dye my hair black until, well, it's not I wasn't allowed, but I never dyed my hair black until I was in my 20s, and I'd moved out completely because there was that stigma of, you know, and yeah, being a impressionable, wanting to please. I followed the rules, but my insides were wanting a whole dark bedroom, and you know what I mean, and would happily sit and, you know, listen to The Cure all day and stuff. Anyway, that's enough about me. So yeah, so this is the Gothic Tarot by Joseph Vargo. I think you can still get it. This Five of Swords really creeps me out. This is the one card where it makes me feel uncomfortable, but for a good, you know what I mean? It's for a good reason. You need to like sit with it and look for it. But it's just, yeah, it just gives me, it gives me the creeps. But that is not going, this deck is never leaving my collection. Now, the last, but by no means least, is another sentimental type tarot, and it is the Heaven and Earth Tarot. And this is the first deck that my husband bought me as a gift when I rediscovered tarot. And I do really like this deck. I wish I'd have had a deck like this when I was first reading tarot, and I mean, I know there was, but the ability to know or have readily available a deck like this, because I would have just read with it continually. I just love it. It has got a bit of sauciness about it, but I just do love the moodiness about it. It's moody. It's kind of, again, it's got those moody vibes to it. And it's the first deck he's bought me, and I will treasure it. It is very, like, it's a bit of a difficult one to read with because it's so glossy. It's when you're trying to read with it, if you're reading with it on a video or something like that, it shows, like, you can see all the reflections and stuff like that, and I'm in daylight at the moment, you can see the camera there. It is not the best to kind of record with, but I do love reading with it. It's really accurate, and I really love it. I do like that it's got the keyword underneath, but again, it's hard to read. Yeah, it does follow kind of, I think it follows a little bit of the Thoth keywords there. But yeah, I love it. And that looks like a bit like Tyrion from Game of Thrones. I do want the Game of Thrones deck Julia keeps putting on, was showing on her channel, and I always look at it and I'm like, I really want that deck, but I don't know anything about Game of Thrones. I don't watch it, I'm not into it, and that deck always kind of, I always look and go, oh, I like it. But he also bought me this beautiful bag as well. It's like handmade velvet bag, and yeah, I will always keep this deck. It's not going anywhere in my collection. I have, you know, if I was reading at parties or anything like that, or, you know, weather being, it'd be very good because it's got that plastic coating on that means your cards are going to be safe. So it's a very, you know, durable deck. I love that. It's just, it's got just lovely like vibes to it. And yeah, this is the Heaven and Earth Tarot. Yeah, so that was number 10, but I also have a little bonus deck. When I said cards, then I have got a bonus deck, and I wanted to include this just as a little cheeky, like, it's never leaving my collection, and there's a reason for it. So without further ado, I will tell you what the bonus deck is. Now, this bonus deck is a Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's not just any old Rider-Waite-Smith. That's why I put it as the bonus. It is a giant Rider-Waite-Smith. Now, there is a story to this. So this deck is, I would say, I mean, that's an A5, like, I'm trying to get an A5. I'm trying to get my diary to show you the size of it, as you can see. Right, that's my diary, that's A5. So it is, you know, it's quite substantial. Yeah. And I didn't mean to buy this. I didn't mean to buy cards that were so big. And again, this was, it wasn't 20 years ago, but it was quite a considerable amount of time ago when Amazon was around, because I remember buying it from Amazon. And I thought, right, I'm going to get myself the right, I'd been seeing when I was looking at tarot, like, I kept seeing the Rider-Waite-Smith, the Rider-Waite-Smith, the Rider-Waite-Smith, and I didn't want to get a deck that was like small or whatever, and I didn't know about card sizes. So I thought, oh, a giant Rider-Waite-Smith, how giant would it be? Yeah, it is huge. Now, it's got, you know, your plaid backs, like how it's not an easy shuffle, but you can see the detail all in its, you know, in its glory. There you can see everything. And I bought this along with another deck that I started really connecting with, and then those three decks, after, like, I was reading for quite a few years, and I had Bob, and I had my Mystic Dreamer Tarot, which I still got, and this, I stopped reading, or I put my decks in my bottom drawer, and they've stayed there. And when I kind of came back to tarot and started getting more decks and everything, and I thought, right, I'll look at my old decks, and I was like, well, what do I do with this? It's huge. Like, I'm not going to be able to read with it. It's not going to, you know, it's too big for spreads and stuff like that. What do I do? And I did think about, like, using it as a tool, as in a learning tool, and kind of write the keywords on the cards and things like that, and have them so I could kind of use them almost like flashcards. But then I picked up, you know, I picked it back up so well that I was like, I don't need to do this. I kind of kept hold of it, and I've kept hold of this for, like, memory's sake. And also, who would want a huge tarot deck this big? Who would want, you know, I don't think anybody would want a deck this big. It's a US Games one, but yeah, it's I'm not a Rider-Waite-Smith girly. Really, I have a Rider-Waite-Smith, and I have this one because, you know, honouring the system and everything. It's, you know, the most famous system ever, and the images and symbolism and everything like that within it. So I do have Rider-Waite-Smith decks, but I don't readily read with them, just because I don't get on with the kind of I don't get on with old-fashioned artwork. I should say old-fashioned, but I don't get on with art. I'm more a modern kind of person with my artwork and stuff. So yeah, so this is the bonus one. Leave you on the Knight of Pentacles. I identify with this card so much, even though I think my Sun card is the Queen of Pentacles because I'm a Capricorn. I do identify a lot with the Knight of Pentacles kind of as a card. It's kind of my vibe. So that was your bonus. We've got our absolutely giant, huge Rider-Waite Smith there, and I will see you again in another video. It's been lovely sharing the 10 decks that aren't leaving my collection. I'll have this is now, you know, set in stone. That's why I said with the Thoth deck, you know, I will always have a Thoth deck, maybe not that one, but yeah, let me know what decks you wouldn't part with. Like, have you got any funny stories, like, you know, your typical you bought the cards because you thought you were getting a normal size deck and you got a giant deck instead? You know, what do you think of the choices? Yeah, and I've really enjoyed it. I will catch you again for another video. It will be Tuesday. We will be back to our regularly scheduled programming. So we'll be back to Tuesdays, and yeah, I hope you have a lovely weekend. My Moonbeams, it's coming into the bank holiday. Have a lovely, lovely weekend, and I will catch you later. See you later, Moonbeams.